The rain tapped softly against the window pane as Petunia Dursley stood in the dimly lit kitchen, staring at the letter that had arrived earlier that day. It was from Professor McGonagall, the stern witch who had delivered Harry Potter to her doorstep nearly a decade ago. The words on the parchment were simple. Harry Potter is now of age to receive his Hogwarts letter. We trust you will inform him of his heritage. Petunia's hands trembled as she set the letter down. Her heart was heavy with emotions she had long buried. She had spent years resenting her sister, Lily, for being special, for being magical, and for leaving her behind. But as she glanced at the cupboard under the stairs, where her nephew slept, a pang of guilt washed over her. Harry was not to blame for the past. He was an innocent child, orphaned and alone. Petunia thought of the green eyes that mirrored Lily's and the lightning-shaped scar that marked his destiny. She couldn't bear the thought of him walking into the magical world without understanding who he truly was. That evening, when Vernon and Dudley had gone to bed, Petunia softly knocked on the cupboard door. "Harry," she whispered. The door creaked open, and Harry, thin and pale, peered up at her. "Yes, Aunt Petunia?" "Come with me," she said, her voice unusually gentle. Harry followed her to the living room, confused and wary. Petunia gestured for him to sit on the couch and settled beside him. For a moment, she simply studied his face, seeing Lily in every feature. I've done you a great injustice, Harry," she began, her voice trembling. "I've hidden the truth from you for too long." Harry's eyes widened. He had spent his life being told that his parents had died in a car crash. What truth was she talking about? Your parents, Lily and James Potter, were not ordinary people. They were magical. They were wizards. Harry's breath caught in his throat. Wizards. Petunia nodded. Your mother, my sister, was the most brilliant witch of her age. Your father, James, came from a long line of powerful wizards. They fought against a dark wizard named Voldemort, who ultimately took their lives. Harry's head spun. This couldn't be real. Magic. Witches. His parents had been heroes? Petunia reached for a dusty old box she had kept hidden in the attic. She opened it to reveal old photographs, letters, and a small silver pendant that once belonged to Lily. Harry's eyes filled with tears as he saw his parents smiling and laughing in the moving photographs. "I'm sorry for how we've treated you, Harry," Petunia said, her voice breaking. "I was afraid of magic, of what it did to my sister. But you deserve to know who you are." Harry's heart swelled with a mix of emotions, shock, sadness, and an unfamiliar warmth. For the first time in his life, he felt connected to his parents. "There's more," Petunia continued. "Tomorrow, you'll receive a letter from a place called Hogwarts. It's a school for young witches and wizards. Your mother went there. And I want you to go too." Harry's eyes lit up with wonder. He had spent his life as an outcast, dreaming of escape. Now he was being offered a world where he might finally belong. "Thank you, Aunt Petunia," Harry whispered. Petunia reached out and awkwardly patted his hand. It was the beginning of something new, a fragile bond that had been buried under years of resentment and fear. But in that moment, Petunia realized that protecting Harry didn't mean hiding him from his past. It meant embracing the magic that was rightfully his. As Harry climbed back into his cupboard that night, he clutched the photograph of his parents close to his chest. For the first time in his life, he felt hope. And in the shadows of the dark house, Petunia Dursley shed silent tears for her sister and the nephew she had wronged for so long. Tomorrow, everything would change. The next morning, Harry awoke to the sound of something tapping against the window. Rubbing the sleep from his eyes, he hurried to open it and was stunned to see a large, tawny owl perched on the sill, a thick envelope clutched in its beak. "Aunt Petunia," Harry called, unsure of what to do. Petunia hurried into the room, and to Harry's surprise, she didn't seem shocked. Instead, she gently took the letter from the owl, which hooted softly before flying off. "This," she said, handing the envelope to Harry, "is your Hogwarts letter." Harry stared at the envelope. In emerald green ink, his name was written, Mr. H. Potter, the cupboard under the stairs, 4 Privet Drive. With trembling hands, he opened it and read, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore. Order of Merlin, First Class Grand Source. CTF Warlock, Supreme Mugwump, International Confeed of Wizards. Dear Mr. Potter, We are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. Harry looked up at Petunia, his heart pounding. It's real, all of it. Petunia nodded slowly. I never told you the truth because I was afraid, but you deserve to know the world your parents belong to. And now you're part of it too. Harry felt a strange mix of joy and nervousness. He had spent his entire life being told he was a burden, a freak. Now he was being welcomed into a world where he truly belonged. But how do I get to Hogwarts? And what do I need? Harry asked. I'll take you to Diagon Alley, Petunia said firmly. It's where your mother bought all her school things. I remember. She was so excited. For the first time, Harry saw a glimmer of something in Petunia's eyes. Nostalgia, perhaps even love for her sister. It was strange and unfamiliar, but it warmed Harry's heart. The next morning, Petunia and Harry stood outside the Leaky Cauldron, the small, grubby-looking pub hidden between two shops in London. As they stepped inside, heads turned, and whispers filled the air. Is that Harry Potter? The boy who lived? Harry shifted uncomfortably under the stairs, but Petunia placed a hand on his shoulder, guiding him toward the back of the pub. With a gentle tap of her fingers on a brick wall, the entrance to Diagon Alley appeared before them. Harry's eyes widened in awe as the bustling, magical street unfolded before him. Shops selling wands, robes, cauldrons, and spellbooks lined the cobbled street. Children excitedly pressed their noses against the windows, and owls hooted from cages stacked outside the pet shop. Petunia led Harry to Gringotts, the wizarding bank, where they retrieved the small fortune left to him by his parents. Then they began their shopping adventure. At Madame Malkin's, Harry was fitted for his Hogwarts robes. At Flourish and Blot's, he marveled at the towering shelves filled with spellbooks. And at Ollivander's, where wands were stacked high in narrow boxes, Harry found the wand that seemed to choose him. Holly and Phoenix Feather, 11 inches, supple and powerful. I remember Lily's wand, Petunia said quietly as they left the shop. It was Willow, 10 1/4 inches. She was so proud of it. Harry smiled, feeling a newfound connection to his mother. By the end of the day, Harry had everything he needed: robes, books, a cauldron, and even a snowy white owl he named Hedwig. As they returned to Privet Drive, Harry felt a sense of belonging he'd never known before. That night, as he lay in his cupboard, he couldn't stop thinking about the magical world that awaited him. For the first time in his life, he felt excited about the future. And deep down, he knew that, with Petunia's support, he was ready to step into the world his parents had once called home. The summer days at Privet Drive passed quicker than Harry had expected. For the first time in his life, he wasn't treated like an unwanted burden. Petunia, though awkward and reserved, began to show small signs of care, leaving him warm meals, helping him organize his school supplies, and even telling stories about Lily from time to time. Harry treasured those moments. They were pieces of a mother he never knew, and a side of Petunia he had never seen before. On the morning of September 1st, Harry stood at the doorway, his trunk packed and Hedwig's cage in hand. Petunia stood beside him, her eyes filled with an emotion Harry couldn't quite place. Ready? She asked softly. Harry nodded. They arrived at King's Cross Station with plenty of time to spare. However, as they reached Platform 9 and Platform 10, Harry's excitement turned to confusion. There's no Platform 9 3/4, Harry said, scanning the station. Petunia smiled faintly. Oh, there is. You just have to know where to look. Your mother was terrified the first time, too. She led him toward the barrier between Platforms 9 and 10 and glanced around to make sure no muggles were watching. Walk straight into the wall, Petunia instructed. Don't hesitate. The magic will guide you through. Harry blinked. Walk into the wall? Trust me, Petunia said. Lily did it, and so can you. Taking a deep breath, Harry tightened his grip on his trolley and began to walk toward the solid brick wall. With each step, his heart pounded louder, expecting to crash. But as he reached the barrier, the air around him shimmered, and suddenly he was on the other side. He found himself standing on a bustling platform filled with witches, wizards, and children in black robes. A magnificent scarlet steam engine stood before him. the Hogwarts Express. Petunia stepped through the barrier behind him and looked around, her eyes distant. "This is where I said goodbye to Lily for the first time," she murmured. Harry turned to her. "I'll come back, Aunt Petunia. I promise." Her eyes softened as she brushed a stray strand of hair from his forehead, something she had never done before. "You're more like her than you know, Harry. And I'm proud of you." The words hit Harry's heart like a spell, warming him from within. "Thank you for everything," he whispered. Petunia gave him a small nod, her eyes glistening. "Go on now. Your parents would want you to make them proud." With a final smile, Harry turned and boarded the train. As he found an empty compartment, he leaned out of the window and waved. Petunia Dursley, who had once despised everything about magic, stood tall on platform 9 3/4, watching her nephew disappear into the world her sister once loved. And for the first time, she felt something unexpected, pride, not fear. As the train whistled and began to move, Harry felt the excitement bubbling in his chest. He was no longer just the boy who lived. He was Harry Potter, son of Lily and James, and he was finally going home. The Hogwarts Express raced through the countryside, and Harry watched the rolling hills and forests pass by. His heart pounded with a mix of excitement and nerves. He was finally entering the world his parents had belonged to, a world of magic. As the train rumbled along, the compartment door slid open, and a bushy-haired girl with large front teeth peeked in. "Has anyone seen a toad?" A boy named Neville's lost one. Harry shook his head, and the girl's eyes narrowed as she spotted his scar. "Wait, you're Harry Potter," she gasped. "I'm Hermione Granger. It's an honor to meet you." Before Harry could respond, another boy with flaming red hair entered. "Blimey, Harry, you're famous in the wizarding world." "I'm Ron Weasley." Harry smiled awkwardly. It was strange being recognized, but he was grateful for the company. The three of them spent the rest of the journey talking, sharing sweets from the trolley and laughing. For the first time, Harry felt like he belonged. As night fell, the train arrived at Hogwarts. The first years were led across the Black Lake in small boats, and Harry couldn't help but marvel at the towering castle that stood in the distance, its windows glowing like stars. Inside the grand hall, hundreds of students sat at long tables beneath a ceiling enchanted to look like the night sky. Professor McGonagall stood before them, holding a battered old hat. "When I call your name," she said, "you will come forward and be sorted into one of the 4 houses: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, or Slytherin." One by one, the students were called forward. The sorting hat would be placed on their heads, and after a moment, it would announce their house. When Harry's name was called, the entire hall fell silent. Whispers filled the air as he stepped forward. "That's him, the boy who lived." Harry sat on the stool, and the sorting hat was placed on his head. "Ah, difficult," the hat whispered in his mind. "Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. Loyal, very loyal. And a thirst to prove yourself. You'd do well in Slytherin." Harry's heart dropped. Slytherin? That was the house Voldemort had been in. Not Slytherin, Harry thought desperately. Anywhere but Slytherin. "Are you sure?" the hat asked slyly. "You could be great there. It's all here, in your head." "No," Harry pleaded. "I want to be in Gryffindor. Like my dad." The hat paused, then chuckled softly. "Very well, if you're sure. Gryffindor." The hall erupted in applause as Harry made his way to the Gryffindor table, where Ron and Hermione cheered for him. Harry couldn't help but smile. He had made the right choice. Later that night, as he lay in his 4-poster bed in the Gryffindor dormitory, Harry thought about Aunt Petunia. She had sent him here. She had given him the chance to know the world his parents loved. "I'll make you proud," Harry whispered to himself. "I'll make Mum and Dad proud too." As the castle settled into silence, Harry felt something he had never felt before, a sense of belonging, of family. And for the first time in his life, he fell asleep with a smile on his face. The days at Hogwarts passed in a blur of magic and wonder. Harry found himself immersed in subjects like charms, potions, and transfiguration, though he quickly learned that Professor Snape seemed to harbor a deep dislike for him. Despite the challenges, Harry felt more alive than he ever had at Privet Drive. Every evening, he wrote letters to Petunia. At first, it was awkward. Harry wasn't sure how much she wanted to hear about magic, but to his surprise, she responded to each letter with genuine interest. She even shared stories about Lily's childhood, things Harry had never known. Your mother used to make flowers bloom in her hands when we played in the garden, one letter read. I was so jealous back then. But now, I wish I had appreciated her magic more. These letters became Harry's lifeline, connecting him to the family he thought he had lost. Petunia, in turn, found herself softening with each letter. She had spent so many years resenting Lily's world, but now, through Harry, she was slowly healing old wounds. One chilly October morning, Harry received a package from Petunia. Inside was an old, worn-out scarf that had once belonged to James Potter. I kept it hidden all these years, the note said. I thought you'd want something that once belonged to your father. Harry clutched the scarf tightly, tears welling in his eyes. It was the first time he had ever felt truly connected to his father. Meanwhile, Harry's bond with Ron and Hermione grew stronger. The trio tackled their classes together, defended each other against Draco Malfoy's taunts, and explored the mysteries of the castle. But deep down, Harry carried something none of his friends could understand. A growing connection with Petunia that was slowly mending the broken pieces of his past. One evening, as he sat by the fire in the Gryffindor common room, Harry wrote a simple letter to Petunia. I know you never liked magic, but thank you for letting me be part of this world. I think Mom would be proud of both of us. As the owl soared into the night sky, Harry felt a warmth in his chest. He wasn't just the boy who lived anymore. He was Harry Potter, son of Lily and James, and nephew to a woman who, despite her flaws, was trying to make things right. And that was more than enough. The weeks leading up to Halloween were filled with excitement and whispers about the upcoming feast. For Harry, however, Hogwarts was becoming more than just a school of magic. It was becoming home. Yet, in the quiet moments, he often thought about Petunia and her letters that spoke of Lily with a mixture of sorrow and longing. Harry's bond with Hermione and Ron strengthened with every shared laugh and adventure. The three of them were inseparable, whether it was learning spells in the library or avoiding Filch and his cat, Mrs. Norris. But one evening, as Harry prepared for bed, Hedwig arrived with another letter from Petunia. I remember the first Halloween Lily spent at Hogwarts, Petunia had written. She wrote me a letter describing the enchanted Great Hall, the floating pumpkins, and the joy she felt being part of something so magical. I never understood it then. I only felt left behind. But now, through you, I see what she loved so much about this world. Harry's heart tightened. For the first time, Petunia wasn't just the bitter woman who had resented magic. She was a sister who had lost her only family and never knew how to cope with that loss. The Halloween feast was just as grand as Petunia had described. The Great Hall was illuminated by thousands of floating candles and jack-o'-lanterns. Delicious food filled the tables, and the ghosts of Hogwarts put on a playful show for the students. Harry couldn't help but imagine Lily experiencing this same wonder all those years ago. But the joyful atmosphere was shattered when Professor Quirrell stormed into the hall, his face pale with terror. "Troll! In the dungeon!" he stammered before collapsing. Chaos erupted as students screamed and scrambled. In the panic, Harry and Ron realized Hermione was missing. Without hesitation, they raced toward the girls' bathroom, where they had last seen her earlier that day. To their horror, a massive mountain troll was already there, swinging its club and smashing the sinks. Hermione cowered against the wall, terrified. Harry's instincts kicked in. "Do something," he shouted to Ron. Ron raised his wand and shouted, "Wingardium Leviosa." The troll's club floated into the air and crashed down on its own head, knocking the creature out cold. Professor McGonagall arrived moments later, along with Snape and Quirrell. Though Hermione took the blame, claiming she had gone looking for the troll, McGonagall awarded points to Gryffindor for their bravery. That night, as Harry lay in bed, he couldn't help but smile. He was no longer just an outsider. He had friends who stood by him, and an aunt who, in her own way, was beginning to understand him. And somewhere, Harry felt, his mother was proud of the family he was slowly building, both in the magical world and the one he left behind on Privet Drive. As November settled over Hogwarts, the castle was cloaked in frost and whispers of Christmas filled the corridors. For the first time in his life, Harry wasn't dreading the holidays. Petunia had written to him, encouraging him to stay at Hogwarts and experience the magic of Christmas the way Lily once did. "Your mother loved Christmas at Hogwarts," Petunia's letter read. The enchanted snow, the decorated trees. She always said it felt like stepping into a fairy tale. I never understood her love for this world. But now, I wish I had. Harry clutched the letter close. He could feel the walls between them slowly crumbling, and with each letter, Petunia seemed to be letting go of her bitterness. On Christmas morning, Harry awoke to an unexpected surprise: presents. For the first time, someone had remembered him. Alongside gifts from Ron and Hermione was a small package wrapped in simple brown paper. There was no note, but Harry recognized the handwriting on the tag, from Petunia. Inside was a small photo frame. Within it, a moving photograph of Lily and James on their wedding day. Lily beamed with joy, her green eyes sparkling as James twirled her around. Harry felt a lump in his throat. Petunia had kept this, all these years? Later that evening, while wandering the castle, Harry stumbled upon an ancient, dusty room. Inside stood a tall, ornate mirror. Curious, Harry stepped in front of it, and his breath caught in his throat. In the reflection, he saw himself, but he wasn't alone. Behind him stood Lily and James Potter, smiling down at him with pride. And to Harry's shock, Petunia stood beside Lily, her hand gently resting on her sister's shoulder. Harry's heart ached with longing. He reached out to touch the glass, but his fingers met cold, empty air. "What do you see?" Harry turned to find Professor Dumbledore watching him with kind eyes. "I see my family," Harry admitted quietly. Dumbledore nodded. "The mirror of Erist shows us the deepest desires of our hearts. But it does not give us truth or knowledge. Many have wasted away before it, longing for what they cannot have." Harry swallowed hard. "Will I ever see them again?" Dumbledore placed a gentle hand on Harry's shoulder. "The ones we love never truly leave us. They live on in our hearts, in the memories we cherish, and in the love we share with others." As Harry left the room that night, he held the photograph from Petunia close to his chest. He might never bring his parents back, but he was slowly finding something he thought he'd never have: a family that cared. And somehow, he knew Lily Potter's love was still protecting him. Not just through magic, but through the sister who, after all these years, was finally learning to love him too. The new year brought snow and quiet days at Hogwarts, but Harry's heart felt lighter than ever. Petunia's letters had become more frequent, and with each one, Harry could sense the walls around her heart slowly breaking. One evening, while writing her a reply, Hedwig returned with an unexpected package. It was small and wrapped in faded, yellowed paper. Harry opened it to find a bundle of old, crumpled letters tied together with a thin ribbon. A note from Petunia rested on top. "I've held on to these for years," she wrote. "Letters I never sent to Lily after she went to Hogwarts. I was angry, jealous. I couldn't accept that she was different, that she was special. But I thought you should have them now." Harry's hands trembled as he untied the ribbon and unfolded the first letter, written in a younger, more hopeful version of Petunia's handwriting. "Dear Lily, I miss you. The house feels empty without you here. Mom and Dad are so proud of you, but I feel forgotten. I wish I could understand your world. I wish I could be part of it." Harry's eyes burned with tears. Petunia had never hated magic. She had only felt left behind. He read letter after letter, each filled with sorrow and longing. Letters that spoke of a sister who loved Lily, but couldn't find the courage to tell her. Letters that were never sent. By the time Harry reached the last one, he felt as though he had discovered a part of his mother's life he never knew existed. "Dear Lily, I never said goodbye, and I never forgave you for leaving me behind. But now I wish I had. I wish I had told you how proud I was of you, how much I loved you. And now, all I have left is your son. I've been so cruel to him. But I see you in him. I see James too. And I want to do better. For you." Harry's heart ached not with anger, but with something new: understanding. That night, instead of replying with words, Harry sent something else back with Hedwig. The photograph Petunia had given him of Lily and James. On the back, Harry wrote, "You were never left behind. She loved you too." Somewhere, far from the world of magic, Petunia Dursley held that photograph in her hands and wept. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to grieve the sister she lost, and the nephew she was finally learning to love. As winter melted into spring, Harry's bond with Petunia grew stronger. Her letters revealed more about Lily's childhood, about the games they played and the laughter they shared before the world of magic divided them. With each letter, Harry felt closer not only to his mother, but to the woman who had once resented her. But as Harry embraced this new connection, the whispers around him grew louder. The name Harry Potter carried weight in the wizarding world, too much weight. People expected greatness from him, as if surviving Voldemort's curse made him something extraordinary. Famous Harry Potter, Draco Malfoy sneered in potions class, living off his parents' name. The word stung more than Harry cared to admit. Was that all he was? The boy who lived? The son of Lily and James Potter? That evening, Harry poured his frustration into a letter to Petunia. I feel like people only see me as Harry Potter, the boy who defeated Voldemort. They don't know who I really am. Sometimes I wonder, who am I without this name? The reply came swiftly, and with it, words Harry never expected from her. I know what it's like to live in the shadow of a name. Your mother was brilliant, kind, and loved by everyone. I spent my childhood feeling invisible next to her. But, Harry, you are not defined by what others expect of you. You are your father's courage, your mother's kindness, and you are something neither of them ever had. You have the chance to bring both worlds together. And I believe you're already doing that. Harry stared at the parchment, stunned. He had spent years believing Petunia hated his parents. But now he saw the truth. She didn't hate Lily. She had only hated the distance between them. With newfound determination, Harry threw himself into his studies. He worked harder in charms, practiced defense against the dark arts, and even managed to brew a passable potion under Snape's watchful glare. When the next Quidditch match arrived, Harry soared across the pitch on his broom, not as the boy who lived, but as Harry, quick, determined, and free. He caught the snitch, securing Gryffindor's victory, and for the first time, the cheers felt real. That night, Harry wrote back to Petunia. You were right. I am more than just their son. And I think they'd be proud of the boy you're helping me become. Far away on Privet Drive, Petunia Dursley read those words with tears in her eyes. Lily's son wasn't just changing the wizarding world. He was changing her world too. As the days at Hogwarts passed, Harry found himself growing more confident. He excelled in flying lessons, bonded with Ron and Hermione, and even managed to dodge Snape's sharp tongue in potions. But deep down, there was a question that lingered in his heart, one he couldn't bring himself to ask anyone. Who was James Potter? Harry knew bits and pieces. His father was brave, a talented wizard, and had fought against Voldemort. But beyond that, James remained a mystery. One evening, Harry found himself in the Gryffindor common room, staring at the fire. In his hands was a letter from Petunia that had arrived that morning. I've told you so much about your mother, Petunia had written. But I suppose it's time I told you about your father. I hated James Potter. Or at least I thought I did. He was arrogant, loud, and completely in love with your mother from the moment they met. I thought he was just another foolish boy chasing after Lily. But I was wrong. I saw something in him the day your mother married him. He looked at Lily the way I wish someone had looked at me, with pure love. And I knew in that moment that he would protect her with everything he had. And when Voldemort came for you, he did. Harry's heart pounded as he read the words. I never told you this, Harry, but after your parents died, Dumbledore came to us. He told us what James did. Your father stood between Voldemort and your mother. He didn't even have a wand in his hand. He just stood there, protecting Lily and you. He knew he couldn't win. But he did it anyway, because that's who James Potter was. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't always kind. But when it mattered most, he was the bravest man I've ever known. Harry felt a lump rise in his throat. His father hadn't died because he was famous. He hadn't died because he was a hero. He died because he loved Harry and Lily more than his own life. Harry folded the letter carefully and tucked it into his robes. That night, as he lay in bed, he whispered softly, "Thank you, Dad." And somewhere in the echoes of the castle, Harry could almost hear James Potter's laughter, proud, warm, and full of love. As the weeks passed, Harry couldn't stop thinking about the letter from Petunia. Learning about James's final act of bravery filled him with pride, but there was still one person who seemed to despise Harry for simply bearing his father's name, Professor Snape. Harry couldn't understand the man's hatred. Snape seemed to loathe him from the moment he stepped into the potions classroom. The cold stares, the snide comments, and the constant humiliations, it all felt personal. Petunia's latest letter, however, shed light on a truth Harry had never expected. "I suppose it's time you knew the truth about Severus Snape," Petunia had written. "He grew up in the same neighborhood as your mother and me. Severus was odd, quiet, and deeply obsessed with magic. I couldn't stand him, but Lily, she saw something in him that no one else did. They were friends for years. But then he changed. He became obsessed with the dark arts. He chose a darker path. And Lily, she couldn't follow him. I think he never forgave himself for losing her. And when she married James, it broke him." Harry's eyes widened as he read the words. Snape had loved his mother. That's why he hated James. And that's why he hated Harry. For the first time, Harry saw Snape not as the cruel, bitter professor who tormented him, but as a man who had lost the only person he ever truly cared about. In the following days, Harry began to observe Snape differently. There was pain hidden behind those cold, black eyes. A pain that Harry recognized, the pain of losing someone you loved. During the next potions class, when Snape sneered at him for chopping his ingredients wrong, Harry didn't snap back like he usually would. Instead, he quietly corrected his mistake and focused on his work. Snape's eyes narrowed as if he sensed something had changed. Harry wasn't sure what he felt towards Snape. Anger? Pity? Or perhaps something deeper. But one thing was clear. Snape wasn't just a bitter old man who hated Harry for no reason. He was a man trapped in the shadow of the love he lost. And for the first time, Harry understood that pain. Harry's understanding of Snape's past lingered in his mind as spring blossomed at Hogwarts. The castle, with its ancient walls and hidden secrets, felt less foreign now. He was beginning to feel a connection to this world. Not because he was famous, but because it was where his parents had lived, laughed, and loved. Petunia's letters continued to arrive, each one revealing more pieces of the past Harry never knew. But this time, it wasn't about James. It was about Lily. "I never told you this, Harry," Petunia's letter began, "but the night your mother died, it wasn't just James who tried to protect you. It was Lily's love that saved you. When Voldemort came for you, she had a choice. He gave her the chance to step aside, to live. But she refused. She stood between you and death, knowing she couldn't stop him. And when she died for you, something ancient and powerful happened. Her love became a shield, a magic that even Voldemort himself couldn't break. That's why the curse rebounded. That's why you lived. It wasn't luck, Harry. It was your mother's love that saved you." Harry felt his heart ache as he read the words. Lily Potter hadn't just died to protect him. She had chosen to. And that choice, that love, had left a mark on him far deeper than the lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why Voldemort couldn't touch him. Why he felt a strange warmth when he thought of his mother. Her love was still with him. In the way his heart ached for her. In the way Petunia, despite her bitterness, was slowly trying to make things right. And in the way Harry was learning to forgive those who had been broken by the same tragedy that shaped him. That night, as Harry lay in his four-poster bed, he whispered into the darkness, "Thank you, Mum." Somewhere, in the unseen world beyond the veil, Lily Potter's love wrapped around her son like an invisible cloak, protecting him still. Harry couldn't stop thinking about his mother's sacrifice. The idea that her love still protected him filled him with warmth. But it also left him with a heavy question. If Lily's love saved him, why hadn't Petunia been able to love him too? The next letter Harry wrote to Petunia was different from the others. "Why did you hate me for so long?" Harry asked. "If you loved my mother, why couldn't you love me?" The reply came faster than Harry expected. It was shorter than her usual letters, but the words, they hit Harry harder than any spell ever could. "I never hated you, Harry. I hated the world that took her from me. When she died, I lost my sister, and I was left with you, a constant reminder of everything I could never be. I was bitter, jealous, and I was afraid that if I loved you, I would lose you too. So I built walls around my heart. I tried to push you away. But now, I see Lily in you. I see her kindness, her strength. And I'm sorry, Harry, for everything." Harry's hands trembled as he read the words. Petunia wasn't cruel because she hated him. She was cruel because she was broken. because losing Lily shattered her heart in a way she never knew how to heal. And Harry, he understood that pain all too well. That evening, Harry wrote back, "I forgive you, Aunt Petunia. And I miss her too." Far away on Privet Drive, Petunia Dursley sat at the kitchen table, clutching Harry's letter to her chest as silent tears streamed down her face. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like she had lost her sister. Because in Harry, Lily Potter lived on. As the days at Hogwarts passed, Harry found himself feeling something he'd never felt before, a sense of belonging. Not just because of his friends or the magic around him, but because through Petunia's letters, he was finally discovering who his parents truly were. Yet, one thing still haunted him. His father came from an old wizarding family, the Potters, but Harry knew almost nothing about them. So, in his next letter to Petunia, he asked the question that had been lingering in his mind. "Do you know anything about my father's family?" Petunia's response surprised him. "I never knew much about the Potters. Your father didn't speak of them often. But I remember. Lily once told me that James came from a long line of pureblood wizards. But unlike most pureblood families, the Potters never believed in blood superiority. They were known for their kindness and loyalty to both Muggleborns and Muggles alike. Your grandparents, Fleamont and Euphemia Potter, were kind people. They loved James dearly. But they died before you were born. That's why James considered Sirius Black his brother. James lost his family too, Harry. Just like you." Harry felt a strange ache in his chest as he read those words. He had grandparents who loved his father. People who would have loved him too, if only they had lived. Another part of his family, stolen by Voldemort's war. That evening, Harry wandered the Hogwarts grounds, feeling the weight of the past on his shoulders. But as he looked up at the vast, starry sky, he realized something. He wasn't alone anymore. He had Ron and Hermione. He had the Weasleys. He had Hogwarts. And in a way he never expected, he had Petunia. The sister who had once rejected Lily's world was now helping her son find his place in it. Harry's heart felt heavier with each letter from Petunia. He was learning more about his parents than he ever thought possible. Yet the more he knew, the more he longed for them. There was one part of his father's life that intrigued him most, the Marauders. Harry had heard their names before: James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew. They were troublemakers, pranksters, and legends at Hogwarts. But who were they really? In his next letter to Petunia, Harry asked, "Did you know anything about my father's friends? The ones who called themselves the Marauders?" Petunia's reply came quickly, though her words carried a strange mix of bitterness and sadness. "I only knew what Lily told me. Your father was never alone, Harry. He had friends who stood by him through everything. Sirius Black, wild, reckless, and fiercely loyal. Remus Lupin, kind and gentle, but carrying a burden none of them understood. And Peter Pettigrew. Well, Lily never trusted him, but James did. The four of them were inseparable. They called themselves the Marauders and caused chaos across the castle. But there was more to them than mischief. They loved each other like brothers. And when the war began, they fought side by side, until one of them betrayed the rest." Harry's breath caught as he read the words. Betrayal. He knew the story. Peter Pettigrew had been the one who revealed the location of the Potters to Voldemort. And because of him, his parents were dead. Harry's fists clenched as anger boiled inside him. But there was something else. Something Petunia had written that stuck with him. Your father, he never gave up on his friends. Even when the world turned against Sirius Black, James never doubted him. Harry's heart pounded in his chest. Everyone believed Sirius Black was the traitor. Everyone except James Potter. Why? What did his father know that the rest of the world didn't? Harry didn't have the answers yet, but something inside him told him that the truth about his parents' deaths was far more complicated than he'd ever imagined. Harry couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. If James Potter had trusted Sirius Black, why did the wizarding world believe he was the one who betrayed the Potters? Harry decided to ask the only person who seemed willing to tell him the truth, Petunia. In his next letter, he wrote, Aunt Petunia, if my dad trusted Sirius Black, then why did everyone say he betrayed them? Her reply was hesitant, almost fearful. I never understood it either, Harry. Sirius was reckless and arrogant, yes. But he loved your father. When Lily told me that Sirius was going to be your secret keeper, I was relieved. Because I knew that as long as Sirius Black lived, no one would ever reach you. But then, the night your parents died, they said Sirius betrayed them. That he handed them to Voldemort and killed Peter Pettigrew. But I remember something strange. Dumbledore came to us the next day. He said something that's haunted me for years. Sirius Black was never meant to be the secret keeper. I never understood what he meant. But I think there's more to this than the world believes. Harry's heart pounded in his chest. Sirius Black wasn't the secret keeper? Then who was? And if Sirius wasn't the traitor, why had he spent the last 12 years in Azkaban? Harry felt a sudden, burning determination. He had spent his whole life believing he was alone, that his parents' best friend had betrayed them. But what if that wasn't true? What if Sirius Black wasn't the villain? What if he was another victim of the same betrayal that took his parents from him? Harry didn't know the truth yet, but he was going to find it, no matter what. Harry couldn't sleep that night. The weight of Petunia's words echoed in his mind. Sirius Black was never meant to be the secret keeper. Then who was? The answer seemed hidden in the past, buried with the truth of his parents' final moments. Determined, Harry wrote back to Petunia. Aunt Petunia, if Sirius wasn't the secret keeper, then who was? Her reply came swiftly, and this time, Harry could feel the hesitation in her words. I don't know his name, Harry, but I remember Lily telling me that James and Sirius came up with a plan to fool Voldemort. They switched secret keepers at the last moment. Someone Voldemort would never suspect. Someone small. Someone weak. I always thought it was Peter Pettigrew. Harry's blood ran cold. Peter Pettigrew, the man who was supposedly killed by Sirius Black. The man who everyone believed died trying to stop Sirius from escaping. But what if? What if Peter was never a victim? What if he was the traitor all along? The pieces of the puzzle started to fit together in Harry's mind. James and Sirius switched secret keepers, trusting Peter to keep their location secret. But Peter, he betrayed them, and then framed Sirius for his own murder. Harry's heart pounded as he realized the truth that no one else had seen. Sirius Black was innocent, and the real traitor was alive, somewhere. Harry clenched his fists. He wasn't just going to uncover the truth. He was going to clear his godfather's name, no matter what it took. Harry's mind raced with the truth Petunia had revealed. If Peter Pettigrew was the true traitor, then that meant he was alive. But how could someone hide for 12 years without being found? As Harry sat in the Gryffindor common room late at night, thinking about everything Petunia had told him, a memory flashed through his mind. Scabbers. Ron's old, pathetic rat. Harry's eyes widened in horror. It couldn't be, could it? He rushed to find Ron, who was asleep in his bed with Scabbers curled up next to him. Ron, Harry whispered urgently, shaking him awake. I need to see Scabbers. Ron groaned, rubbing his eyes. What? Why? Just trust me. Confused, Ron handed over the trembling rat. Scabbers looked weaker than ever, but as Harry stared into the rat's beady eyes, he felt something off. Something dark. Do you remember what Fred and George said? Harry asked. Scabbers has been in your family for over 12 years. That's impossible for a rat to live that long. Ron blinked. So what are you saying? I'm saying, this isn't a rat. Harry remembered something from one of the defense against the dark arts lessons. An animagus, he muttered. Ron's eyes widened in shock. You're saying Scabbers is a wizard. A coward who betrayed my parents, Harry said coldly. Without hesitation, Harry raised his wand and whispered, Revelio. A golden light shot from Harry's wand and engulfed Scabbers. The rat squealed and writhed in the air, twisting and stretching, until, with a sickening pop, the small, round figure of Peter Pettigrew collapsed onto the floor. Ron stumbled back in shock. Blimey, he whispered. Harry stepped forward, his wand pointed directly at the trembling man who had once been his father's friend. You. Harry's voice shook with anger. You betrayed them. You gave them to Voldemort. Pettigrew's pale face turned even whiter. And no. Harry, you don't understand. I had no choice. You had a choice. Harry shouted. My parents trusted you. Sirius trusted you. Pettigrew fell to his knees, sniveling and trembling. They would have killed me, the Dark Lord. I was scared. You're a coward, Harry spat. Ron, still in shock, grabbed a bedsheet and tied Pettigrew's hands behind his back. Harry's mind was racing. If they could prove this to Dumbledore, Sirius Black would be free. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stared at the trembling figure of Peter Pettigrew, who was bound and gagged on the floor of the Gryffindor dormitory. Harry's heart pounded in his chest. This man, this coward, had destroyed his family. But now Harry had the truth, and he knew exactly who deserved to hear it first. Sirius Black, Harry said quietly. He deserves to know. Ron gulped. But Sirius is an Azkaban mate. How are we supposed to? I know how, Hermione interrupted. But you're not going to like it. Harry turned to her. Tell me. Hermione hesitated. We have to break into the castle's Ollery. We can send a message to him through Hedwig. If we explain what we've found, he'll come. Harry nodded. Let's do it. That night, under the cover of darkness, the three of them snuck through the castle with Pettigrew tied and floating behind them, silenced by Hermione's spell. Reaching the Ollery, Harry quickly scribbled a message on a piece of parchment. Sirius, I know the truth. Peter Pettigrew is alive. We've caught him. Come to Hogwarts. Harry. Harry tied the message to Hedwig's leg and whispered, Find him, girl. Find Sirius. Hedwig hooted softly and soared into the night sky. Now all they could do was wait. The next evening, as the sun set over the Black Lake, Harry stood by the edge of the Forbidden Forest, with Ron and Hermione at his side. And then, a massive black dog emerged from the shadows. The dog slowly transformed into Sirius Black. Harry's breath caught in his throat. For the first time, he wasn't looking at a murderer. He was looking at his father's best friend. Sirius's eyes widened when he saw the bound figure of Peter Pettigrew. You, Sirius growled, stepping forward. You betrayed them. You killed James and Lily. Pettigrew whimpered. Please, Sirius. I didn't mean to. I was scared. You were their friend. Sirius roared, his eyes burning with rage and heartbreak. Harry stepped between them. I want him to pay for what he did, Harry said. But not like this. We need to take him to Dumbledore. We need to clear your name. Sirius stared at Harry for a long moment, his expression softening. You really are James's son, Sirius whispered. Harry felt a strange warmth in his chest. For the first time, he wasn't just chasing the memory of his father. He was standing with the man who once fought beside him. With Peter Pettigrew bound and gagged, Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Sirius Black made their way toward Dumbledore's office. The castle was quiet. The only sound was the echo of their footsteps against the stone floors. Sirius walked beside Harry, though he couldn't stop glancing at him. There was so much he wanted to say, so much time lost. But right now they had to clear his name. As they stood in front of the stone gargoyle that guarded Dumbledore's office, Harry spoke, Sherbet Lemon. The statue moved aside, and the spiral staircase revealed itself. Harry led the way, his heart pounding with anticipation. Dumbledore sat behind his desk, his eyes twinkling as though he'd been expecting them. His gaze briefly flickered to Sirius, but he showed no sign of alarm. Good evening, Harry, Dumbledore greeted calmly. I see you've brought company. Harry stepped forward. Professor, we have proof that Sirius Black is innocent. Dumbledore raised an eyebrow. Do you now? Without a word, Harry and Ron pulled the struggling Peter Pettigrew forward, forcing him to the center of the room. Dumbledore's expression shifted to one of deep surprise. Peter Pettigrew alive. Sirius's voice trembled with rage. He was the secret keeper, not me. He betrayed James and Lily. And then, he faked his own death and framed me for it. Dumbledore rose from his chair and approached Pettigrew, who cowered in fear. With a wave of Dumbledore's wand, the ropes binding Pettigrew tightened even further, ensuring he couldn't escape. You've been hiding in the form of a rat for 12 years, haven't you, Peter? Dumbledore said softly. Living with the Weasley family, right under our noses. Pettigrew whimpered. I had no choice. The Dark Lord would have killed me. You had a choice, Sirius growled. You chose to betray the Potters. You chose to serve Voldemort. Dumbledore turned to Sirius. It seems the truth that has been buried for over a decade has finally come to light. Harry stepped forward. Professor, this means Sirius is innocent. He doesn't deserve Azkaban. Dumbledore's eyes softened. Indeed, Harry. The Ministry will have no choice but to clear Sirius's name once they see the truth. He turned to Fawkes, his phoenix, who was perched nearby. Take this message to the Minister of Magic. Tell him the truth has been revealed. Fawkes let out a soft cry and soared into the air, vanishing in a flash of fire. Sirius turned to Harry, emotion shining in his eyes. You believed in me, Harry, Sirius said, his voice shaking. You saved me from a fate I thought I'd never escape. Harry felt a lump in his throat. You were my dad's best friend. You were like family to him. And you're the closest thing I have left to family, too. Sirius's eyes filled with tears as he stepped forward and embraced Harry. For the first time in 12 years, Sirius Black was free. And Harry Potter had found the family he'd been searching for.